What's up, guys? Devon back at it again with yet another Devon Explains entry, and today I bring you a topic that I did almost 2.5 years ago. How strong is Mecha Godzilla? And that was actually my first video back when I hadn't deleted. No, I didn't delete them. My brother deleted my 119 videos that I posted before these. I've actually made 200 or so videos. Regardless, GvK Kong vs Mecha Godzilla from 2021 is a fight that I in the past would have told you is a complete wash for Kong. That Mecha Godzilla could never ever do anything, and that even with his weapons, the guy would just not stand a single chance. And while I personally still wouldn't disagree with those arguments, I do realize that makes me sound like a goon for Kong, which, get with the fucking news, buddy. But regardless, today I'm gonna go over Mecha Godzilla vs GvK Kong in a much more fair manner, without needing Kong to be stronger, and without needing Mecha Godzilla to be stronger. I'll just analyze what happens on screen, I'll look at which statements support what happens on screen, and then I'll actually go over the fight. Starting off with Mecha Godzilla, I will leave its specific performance against Kong as something for the Kong section. However, I will mention that it is stated this weekend Kong would have ultimately lost to MG if he had been alone. MG's physical feats are primarily best seen against Godzilla. While MG is, without its boosters, slower and less agile than Godzilla, with them it is markedly faster than Godzilla and able to outmaneuver him extremely easily.
Where is Godzilla swinging?
While singular punches from the mech can only push Godzilla around, MG over time can leave Godzilla's skin bruised and burnt, which is more than Kong can say, though he did fight a significantly more durable Godzilla, which is due to the fact that Godzilla's stamina dictates how durable he is on some Dragon Ball shit. MG's durability, on the other hand, is pretty good against this 50% Godzilla, as it can take a full-body tackle with no damage, and none of Kong's strikes later on do anything to the Mecha Godzilla. However, it does have an extreme limit on its durability. 3 to 4 seconds of an extremely weakened atomic breath, exercised to its core and already defeated once, and that's completely enough to utterly annihilate Mecha Godzilla with no difficulty whatsoever. MG's weapons are its peak, however, as its tail drill is implied to be able to pierce Godzilla's belly, and heavily implied to be able to kill Kong. In general, MG's tail itself is able to knock Kong around when it catches him from behind. MG's proton scream in base can stalemate Godzilla's 50% atomic breath and easily overpower it when MG amplifies said ray. And that amplified ray leaves a surface burn on Godzilla's skin, which pretty fucking impressive for
50% Godzilla anyways.
MG's missiles can stun Godzilla when they hit him in the gills, but otherwise don't do much else. They're pretty much featless. Now, I've avoided talking about Mecha Godzilla's physical strength because it's pretty poor. While MG can indeed catch Godzilla while he's power walking, aside from the fact that Godzilla's power walking, even then, that has MG redirecting Godzilla's force upwards, and every other instance, Godzilla is either not fighting back or is being outranged, and thus unable to get leverage. Regardless, MG can still ragdoll Godzilla's body weight, force his jaws open, and overpower Kong with help from its body weight. I will mention that, while from a crossverse perspective, throwing Godzilla around is a pretty dogshit feat, especially when Mecha Godzilla is doing them with its boosters, from an inverse perspective, this is supposed to show us that Mecha Godzilla is extremely powerful. It is supposed to show us that Mecha Godzilla with its boosters is stronger than Kong and Godzilla are, as Kong and Godzilla, for the most part, don't display such feats of brute physicality, especially Kong, while Godzilla does have his instance of throwing Kong. And it's not like Kong doesn't have such feats of pure brute strength. He does throw Skarking around, but that is kind of like a stronger Kong. But regardless, the point is, just from an inverse perspective, we're supposed to be seeing Mecha Godzilla being stronger than Godzilla and being stronger than Kong in this instance, with these boosters. I will repeat, even though from a crossverse perspective the weight isn't that much, from an inverse perspective the film is trying to show us Mecha Godzilla's strength. Do not take this portrayal over actual feats, but do keep it in mind. Kong, when he actually intervenes in the fight, is in a great state of fatigue. To begin with, he's already unhealthy and has spent 2 days chained to his ship, sleeping under the rain and constantly sedated. Then he got his shit kicked in by Godzilla, nearly suffocated, then was sedated again and taken to Antarctica. He travels across the Hollow Earth, fights Warbats, then fights Godzilla for half a day, an entire night, getting his ribs cracked, shoulder dislocated, back burned, all until he goes into a death coma. When the fight between Godzilla and MG starts, Kong is at 50% strength, and across the entire Godzilla vs. Mech portion of that fight, his heart is slowing down.
He is slowly dying.
Then he's forcefully reanimated, which reanimation needs medical care to be recovered from properly, and then fixes up his shoulder, which would need multiple weeks of care to recover from properly, and then, only after
All of this, I'm out of my breath.
does he go on to fight Mecha Godzilla. First thing Kong does is pull MG's head back, which is stated to be a tactical use of brute strength, and on screen we see the Mechagodzilla struggles against Kong's grip. Though it is able to momentarily pull itself back into a standing position where it uses its tail to get Kong off of it, while Kong is pulling it back into that stretched out position. Kong after that helps in throwing MG to the ground and loses his grip on MG's arm
Like a little bum.
He quickly catches MG's overhand punch and gets on the mecha again. MG uses its tail once more to get Kong's grip off and then chucks him into the ground, which Kong utterly tanks. After this, Kong catches MG's drill tail before it can attack Godzilla and begins to completely overwhelm the robot. There's nothing MG can do against Kong in this instance. He cannot react, cannot fight back against the force of Kong's blows, and even when Kong slows down to wind up a backhand and MG manages to actually react, getting its hand on his shoulder, Kong just outspeeds and outpowers the mecha, and then slows down again, kinda try and cut MG in half. To which MG uses its tail to knock Kong off his rhythm once more. It then uses a full force, energy amped Spartan kick to get Kong against the building, which by the way Kong tanked that kick, no difficulty, where Kong catches MG's drill tail with his left arm while being off his guard, and MG then spends a hot time trying to get the drill tail through Kong's defensive arm. Now it is fair to say that Mechagodzilla could have just killed Kong at any point in this time by biting him or shooting a proton stream. That's fair. Could Kong have broken out of it if he saw a much more immediate threat? Yes, because he does that a few minutes later, but it is important to say that Mechagodzilla was wasting an opportunity, and Mechagodzilla will waste a similar opportunity in a rematch because that's just the character of the mech. The same way that Kong, if he loses hope, is also going to not do his best. After this, the mecha gets distracted for 2 seconds, aka turned off, and then Kong fights back a little bit better. MG leverages its weight to keep Kong still by pushing on his weak arm's elbow, same arm with the shoulder that just dislocated recently, which is something Kong also did earlier to more easily catch MG's blow. Which does mean that this feat isn't really MG overpowering Kong properly, but it also means that Kong catching MG's elbow on that overhand also isn't a proper feat, but it is better than what MG did, since Kong didn't really have as much leverage, doesn't weigh as much, and most importantly, Mechagodzilla didn't have a weak shoulder. Finally, Kong gets his hopes back up, breaks MG's grip on his elbow by pulling back. I have been very fair so far, but Kong at this point just speed blitzes MG to cut off his arm, then catches a punch while midair and cuts MG down again, speed blitzing him
again.
Then, to finish off, Kong strikes MG's shoulder/chest area. No, that doesn't hit MG's neck. Then rips off the aforementioned body part, starting with the side that is furthest away from the cut. What we see from all of this is that weakened Kong is relative in physical strength to MG, though inferior at times due to lesser body weight and the fact that he's been heavily injured. On the other hand, he's just faster, outright, with no caveats, and he tanks every one of MG's attacks, with the exception of the drill tail, which being realistic, should be able to just one-shot Kong by going through his eye or his forehead. And Kong, in turn, has more than enough AP to rip MG apart. Given this Kong is so disgustingly weakened and massively below 50%, saying that he's 30%, 40% is extremely realistic. So a full power GvK Kong is going to be somewhere between 2.5 times stronger and faster than this Kong, or up to 3.3 times, equal to 3 weakened Kongs fighting MG at the same time. Kong's durability should also be unquantifiably better than before due to the fact that he doesn't have all those injuries that he sustained from getting beat down by Godzilla for so long. Overall, it's pretty clear that even when being fair to MG, a full-power GvK Kong is just physically stronger and faster. He's also more than durable enough to take all of MG's attacks and has the AP to rip MG limb from limb, even if you think his weakened self was helped by an injured neck. Do you really believe that a non-injured neck would be able to withstand 3 of those Kongs just pulling at it?
The answer is no, it couldn't.
MG, on the other hand, does have its boosters to bridge the speed and strength gap, and its missiles should be able to burn and stun Kong and thus distract him. MG's tail should also still be able to throw Kong off of the mecha, due to the fact that it can overpower his body weight. Being stronger doesn't do anything for Kong's body weight. That, in combination with its boosters, is going to be able to a little bit bridge the gap, not so much make it equal. Kong is still going to have a pretty significant advantage. MG's win conditions are pretty securely the drill tail and the proton scream. Those are ways that it can just kill or heavily wound Kong without any debate. The problem is, though, in close quarters, MG doesn't use its boosters that much, and whenever it does it to enhance blows or grappling, not mobility. While this would mean that it's going to help Mecha Godzilla against Kong physically, it's just not going to help him when Kong starts using the environment around him. Jumpy, dodgy, use buildings, Superman punch on MG's head. So ultimately, what is it? Will MG's tools allow it to land a death blow, or will Kong be able to rip MG limb from limb? Now, even being fair, Kong would still most likely win. His weakened self was able to deal with MG's tools with the exception of the boosters, make him far stronger, far faster, remove all of his injuries that are weakening his durability and also just constantly weakening his performance, and you're just ensuring he can bring MG to the ground before the mech can land its death blow. Remember the joke that I just said? That's something that Kong will actually be able to do, because when the mecha manages to grab Kong's neck and then does the Godzilla maneuver to slam him on a building, Kong will just break the grip, punch MG, and then do the other Godzilla maneuver to send Mecha Godzilla down to the ground like it's Thanos punching Iron Man. And then it's just a matter of could MG win? Yes. Would it win? Probably not, because Kong just has a much better arsenal to be able to defeat MG. And guess what? That arsenal isn't tools, that arsenal is just
good physical statistics.
If MG had better physical statistics, it would definitely beat Kong. But the fact that it even needs its boosters, which it doesn't use that much in close quarters combat, to be able to keep up with Kong physically.
Execution!
And a serious Kong is going to be able to speed blitz MG. Yeah, there's very little MG could do to be able to win aside from spamming its boosters, which again, not something MG will do in character. So Kong was always the winner, even when being equitable. Though, being fair, it is like a mid-diff fight. Thank you so much for pulling up to Devon Explains number 35, and I'ma see you again.